Okay, I'm just going to give it about another minute or so for any latecomers. This is probably too early in the morning for the North American crew and the South American crew.
I'm sure lots of people will watch the recordings. I think most people access it that way. Also, it's Mother's Day, so people might be enjoying a lie-in, enjoying homemade breakfast, etc.
Yeah, that's probably true as well. All right, I posted the link to the Google Doc in the chat window, and that's going to have all the other links you might need for today on it. So I'm going to ask if while I'm doing this, somebody could, maybe Akshat or Lenny, one of you could copy and paste it a little bit later on for any of the latecomers who come in, they can access that link.
Sure.
All right, excellent. In that case, I'm going to share my screen and we're going to get started. Okay, so first thing while we're doing this, I would love you all to just kind of say hi in the chat window. I see some of you have already started saying hi. Please let us know where you're joining us from. We love to see our international colleagues from around the world. So while you're doing that, I'm going to tell you a little bit about me. So I'm Barb Bilgre, and I'm now finishing my 20th year in formal secondary education. Prior to that, I was a wildlife biologist for 9.5 years, doing field studies of dolphins and manatees. And then since becoming an educator, I've been very fortunate and gotten to do a lot of volunteer work with marine life, and had my own elephant study in Ghana for several years. So I'm an active biologist, field biologist, as well as being an educator. And I'd always try and find ways of bringing this into my lessons. I've been working in the IB for on and off for 15 years. And for the MYP, it's been 9 years. And I'm now completing my 3rd year as an MYP coordinator. So you can see I've got a lot of experience, and especially with MYP. So I just wanted to kind of let you all know what's going on and why I wanted to lead this session. So again, I know I've shared the link to the Google Doc. The Google Doc also has the links to this presentation. In a little while, we'll be working on a collaborative Jamboard. I'm going to show you in just a minute this MYP science overview and the MYP science unit planning template. I won't show that to you, but if any of you want a Google Doc or to download it as a Word doc to work on unit planning, I took the one that was came from the MYP, from Principles to Practice, and from the PRC, and I kind of modified it a little bit because I did a course on conceptual based curriculum and instruction, and I kind of tried to tweak the MYP plan to allow me to also include more conceptualization into my unit planning. So I'm going to escape this for one moment, and I just wanted to show you all this. Now, I don't know who originally shared this. It might have been Stephen Taylor, who had developed this MYP program overview. I know it's been circulating around for quite some time. What I did was I took it and I modified it just for the sciences. So you can see the science key and related concepts here. You can see the definitions of the key concepts and the global context and their possible explorations. This is going to be very useful to you during this session as you guys are working on it. You'll see in the second tab, it's got our criteria and the difference between year 1, 3, and 5. And finally, it also has all of the approaches to learning. So you have easy access to all this stuff when you want to be working on your unit plans. I'm probably not going to be coming back to this document, but I wanted to make you aware that it's here. Okay, so we're going to come back to the presentation. And now MYP is defines itself as a program that approaches teaching and learning through concept and context-based learning. But many educators and schools that are trying to implement the MYP program are doing it often in conjunction with the IGCSEs or other curriculum models, and are having trouble moving away from the topical unit plan design to the more conceptual unit plan design. So one of the things I wanted to focus on today is how we can move away from the disciplinary topics and really make MYP science much more integrated approach and more conceptual. Now, the hotter resources, I'm sure many of you have seen these, are trying to do that. And they're really great for showing you how to approach these units through these very engaging titles, and then the way that they're taking concepts and contexts into the development of the units. But if you look, if you look through the science, MYP 1, 2, and 3 sciences, and then the MYP 4 and 5 biology, physics, and chemistry, what you'll end up seeing is that most of the units that they divide this into are single disciplinary units. There are a few that are interdisciplinary within the sciences that will be biology and chemistry or chemistry and physics, but really it's few and far between, and it's still very topical in nature. So what I like to do when I'm approaching unit planning with my team is to really try and focus on how can we make our approaches to science, and for the rest of my team with all the subjects, how can we make it more conceptual? And I'm going to talk about in a moment. And I just wanted to share with you, I have shared an exemplar MYP unit that I had designed on innovation and discovery. And this is for an MYP 1 class, and we're in the middle of teaching this for the first time right now. And it's looking at systems and form, but our global context exploration is through innovation and discovery. So I keep telling the kids, we're not learning about atoms and we're not learning about cells. That's not the focus of the unit, but we're using those as the examples of how scientists can be innovative and how they make these amazing discoveries. And so the focus of the unit is how to be an innovative scientist and what kind of characteristics we need to have in order to make these amazing discoveries. So when I go about unit planning, some of the things I do is I start by brainstorming the big ideas of science. What many people will sometimes think of these as like enduring understandings if you do backwards design. If you look at even the DP subject guides, they've got these big ideas in there as well. I think they're essential understandings in the DP subject guides, but don't quote me on that. But anyhow, one of the things I do with teams when I'm working with them is have them brainstorm a list of the big ideas. Then we go on, once we've chosen all the big ideas, we kind of sort them how we might want to teach them in the different years, which ones would go in which year groups, and try and start our subject guide overview outline that way. And then we would start with a big idea and choose which concepts and explorations that we think would go with that big idea. So the idea is that I wouldn't even be looking at the global context at this point. I'd be looking at the explorations and see which the better explorations would help me get across the big idea. And then, of course, as you guys know from your MYP experience, you have to MYPify the big idea and make a statement of inquiry. So really, the statement of inquiry is just a restatement in MYP terminology of this big idea you want to get across to your students. So we're going to start with our first activity, and I have breakout rooms, or I'm going to set up, sorry, I'm going to set up the breakout rooms now. I had to do that based upon how many people were here. So I'm going to create 4 breakout rooms. All right, so I'm going to open all the rooms and you're going to be automatically assigned to them. And hold on, I'm looking at this. I think it's a little bit too many people in there. Because I want fewer people in a breakout room. Okay, so I've created 6 breakout rooms. I'm going to go ahead and open them. And I would like you guys to spend about 5 minutes, maybe 7 minutes. And I want you to start writing down the big ideas that you think we need to get across to our students in MYP science. If you will open up the link to the Google Doc and look for your breakout room number on the Google Doc in the table there, you guys can start typing in your big ideas there. Okay, so you should all be able to enter your rooms. You should have an invitation now. Are you guys having trouble getting into the breakout rooms? Okay, welcome back, everybody. How'd it go? I saw a lot of typing on here. So I've got this, I'm sharing this right now. And I want to talk about some of what I saw as you guys were working on this. If you look at some of the stuff that's typed up here, you'll see a lot of concepts as ideas to start from and a lot of topics. And it's one of the things that it's okay to start that way, but we want to kind of shift our thinking from topics or just a concept to what is the big idea of that concept. So for instance, just looking here, lots of big ideas that could be explored across the three sciences. All of these things listed here are concepts. Those aren't big ideas. It's not like this big overarching idea. When you say change, what do you mean by change? When you say balance, what do you mean by balance? But I did see some good stuff coming out here. So, you know, we can look at something like interactions between objects affects its motion. Maybe that one could be developed a little bit more to be a big idea. Our solar system is a very small part of the galaxy. That's kind of a very big idea, you know, even just if we don't even just look at it as our solar system, we ourselves are very small in the vastness of our universe. So we might consider something like that. So even something like the laws of conservation of matter or energy could be a good big idea to start a unit from. All right, so I want you to kind of see that you can start with some of these concepts, but if all you're doing is thinking about a concept, you're not thinking about really what is the big idea you want the students to get. Or if you're just thinking about a topic, like I saw energy listed several times on here. If you're just thinking about energy, what's the big idea you want the students to get from that? Because again, energy you could do so many different things with it, depending upon what concepts and what explorations you assign to it. So what I'd like you to start doing is thinking when you come up with these, what are the big ideas? Things like things change over time, or change leads to diversity, or, you know, everything, you know, all matter is conserved. Things like that are big ideas that there's a lot of things that we can do with those and explore them from various different approaches. So I'm just going to talk for a few moments about what I had done with this particular unit. Oops, sorry, I forgot I had looked through my PowerPoint. So I wanted to come back here. And so what I did was I thought about what is it that I really want to teach my students about. And really, I wanted them to understand in MYP1 that in order to make these scientific discoveries, we have to have innovations, and that that discoveries and innovations lead to our greater understanding of knowledge, that both innovation or that innovations themselves can lead to discoveries. So what I did was I thought I could do a nice unit on the scientific building blocks and start introducing my students to cells and atoms in this way, rather than doing on a chemistry unit that's focusing just on atoms or a biology unit that's focusing just on cells. Now I've got a scientific building block unit that's really a unit about innovation and discovery, but where kids are learning about atoms and cells through that. So I just kind of wanted to share with you my process for doing that. I came up with my idea that I wanted to do this big overarching idea, and I created a unit title and my conceptual lens. And that conceptual lens really is what became my global context or my exploration in this unit. And then what I did was I took all the subject specific concepts that I wanted to do and I put them into different strands. So what you can see here is that I did a strand with my students on atomic theory. And so from here, they're learning about atomic structure and atomic diversity, so the diversity of atoms. I also am focusing a strand on cell theory. So they're learning about cell structure, cell diversity, cell differentiation, and cell function and cell specialization. So it's a lot of different things, but remember, this is MYP1. We're going into certain levels of depth, but not into depth with all of these different concepts. And then we're also focusing on scientific innovation, innovator characteristics, and the technology that was used to help us understand more about atoms and cells. And so that's kind of the approach I'm using with the students. And they're going to actually be doing a summative assessment on being museum exhibit curators, and what they're going to be doing is designing a museum exhibit on a technological innovation and focusing on how that innovation helped advance our knowledge of a particular scientific theory or scientific concept. So our kids are learning about atoms and cells and using that to apply their understanding of what it takes to be an innovator and how we make discoveries. So what I'd like to do now is we're going to go back into the breakout rooms, and I'd like you guys to really kind of look at these different types of big understandings or big ideas. I really want you to not choose a concept or a topic, but choose a big idea with that. And then what I want you guys to do within your group is then go to the Jamboard, which is, thank you, Lenny, for linking that. It's right in the chat window. And then find your group. So breakout group 1 is on obviously Jamboard window 1, breakout group 2 is on Jamboard window 2. And then what I want you guys to do is to see if you can start choosing some of the concepts and again, don't go for global context. Look at the concepts and the explorations that might help get your big idea addressed to your students. So we're going to go back to the breakout rooms. They're reopened, so you guys can go ahead and join the breakout rooms. How many ducks does Flynn have?
Ben.
I think he was more staring at himself and he's like, who is that baby with my mother?
All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. I want to know how it was going for you all. Were you able to get some planning done? I'm popping into the Jamboard now.
We did some planning. We kind of took a spin on your unit and changed it to be focusing on the theme that the role that models have in helping us learn, but also helping us discover things through science. But then one of our participants, Enoch, talked about doing like the big idea kind of being linking to Frankenstein and how all the different concepts and stuff you could do through that, and then how we could make it interdisciplinary, but we didn't document that.
Yeah,
but I thought that was
I've heard about the Frankenstein interdisciplinary one. That's very interesting. I had actually just seen something yesterday or the day before on that. Very cool. Yeah, and I want to say that what was it, group 4? Were you the ones looking at the solar system and such? And what they were talking about, they were able to actually come up with 3 different possible big ideas from what they were generated initially. So because they were discussing all of this, they didn't have that much time to develop, but they started to here. But what was great is just from this, from an initial, here's a kind of big idea that the solar system is a small part of the many galaxies. They actually redeveloped that into 3 possible different big ideas and units that they could plan, which I thought was very good. Would anybody like to share, besides Lenny talked about what group 2 was doing? Does any of the other groups want to share what you guys were talking about for your unit? Nobody else feels confident enough? That's okay. I want to bring up, I think it was Greg that was saying this, the conceptual lens. We can actually call that a contextual lens. I call it a conceptual lens just because of the workshop that I had done on the concept-based curriculum and instruction. They call it a conceptual lens. In fact, if you look at the global context explorations, they are in and of themselves micro concepts. So we can look at this if we're thinking in terms of MYP terminology as a contextual lens instead of a conceptual lens, and think about what our exploration is going to be for what we're doing. That might help you guys to focus a little bit. So we've only got about 5 minutes left. So I want to come back to the presentation. I did set up for a third activity about writing a statement of inquiry and inquiry questions, but in all honesty, that's virtually impossible to do in an hour session. As I said, I did share a science unit plan with you all. And one of the things I'd like to look at is, for the next IB educator chat, since Lenny's here with us, maybe what we could do is set up half-day workshop or something if we really want to spend more time working collaboratively to kind of plan units together and such. So I see there's a question here about what exactly is a science concept strand in 1, 2, 3, and 4. So in MYP, the key concepts and related concepts are macro concepts. They're very big and overarching. The strands, the conceptual strands, are subject-specific concepts. So if you looked at the ones that I did, looking at atomic theory and cell theory and the different bullet points I put under each one of those, you'll see each one of those is a science-specific concept. And so those, the atomic theory and the cell theory are strands, and then there are different concepts under each one of those, micro concepts under each one of those. All right, do you all have any other questions? Because again, we don't have too much longer. I know there's still a lot of sessions to go today. All right, so all this stuff is still available. If you guys want, tag your collaborative colleagues on this. What you guys can go ahead and do is, if you want to put your emails on the Google Doc and add your emails to the Google Doc so you can kind of get in touch with one another. And if you want to continue working on these documents to collaborate together and even create your own unit planner using the template, please, I want you to go ahead and do that. If you want my feedback on anything, please feel free to communicate with me. My email, whoops, sorry. There we go. There's my email. So you guys can email me. You can find me on Twitter. I left my LinkedIn profile to be accessible.
I was just going to jump in, Barbara, and say, thank you so much. All these sessions are super interactive, and you can see all the hosts have put in so much work and time into putting them together. So I've put Barbara's LinkedIn on there, so you could connect with her and then endorse her. I know that I have never worked with Barbara face-to-face, but we're often chatting on LinkedIn and sharing ideas, and she's really very collaborative. So if you ever want someone to reach out to or collaborate with, she is incredible. So
thanks, Lenny.
Thank you.
Yeah, and right back at you, So do any of you have any final questions before we end the session then? I really appreciate you all coming and joining, and I hope you got a little bit out of the session. And, you know, please, one of the things you guys can do is, even on the Google Doc, is add follow-ups you would like to see. What else would you like to see, or how can we extend this type of workshop to make it even more useful for you? All right.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much for joining. Hopefully I'll see some of you at my innovation workshop in half an hour.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.